Hello and welcome to Dead Letter Movie Chat, episode 21.
21.
Recorded May 5th, 2015. I'm
Cinco de
Tim.
Mayo. Sorry.
Olé.
Ole. Sorry.
And we're reviewing the new Avengers: Age of Ultron, starring everybody in the world.
Pretty much. Just about anybody that could be in this movie is in this. Well, that's not true. I mean, like, there's people that aren't in the movie, but still. But yeah, enough people. Just about everybody that has been in a Marvel movie returns in some manner. Samuel L. Jackson is still there. Scarlett Johansson, Robert Downey Jr., Chris Evans. I mean, everybody's there.
Few of the supporting players from the solo character movies. I mean, obviously not, because they couldn't fit everyone. They just couldn't.
Mm-hmm.
Movie's 2.5 hours long, and it is just packed full of stuff.
So full of stuff. It's and I think that's its big detriment. Ultimately,
it's both its strength and its weakness. Yeah,
they do a very good job of having a whole bunch of stuff going on, but you still kind of walk out of the theater being like, man, that was a lot of stuff.
Yeah, it really was.
And I'm not saying I want a 3-hour superhero movie, because that's stupid. But I don't know. So it's sort of nice that they were able to make it work for the most part, but there aren't any like plot holes or anything like that.
No, nothing really just jumped out and said, "Hey, wait a minute, I could drive a train through that."
Yeah, there's nothing like that. But so for the most part, the film is very, very well made. It's spectacular. It's got all the things that people would want in movies.
It is. It's an awful lot of spectacle. It just hits the ground running, and it doesn't ever let up.
Yeah, I was
until
never
the
bored.
credits roll.
Yeah, I was never bored in this whole movie.
No.
At no point did it drag. I did get tired of fighting, but I realize I'm a weird person when that happens. Like, once again, I think I've explained this before. Basically, It's The Matrix and Quentin Tarantino's fault. Whatever. I've seen people fight. Is basically what it comes down to. The choreography's cool. I mean, all the fights are neat. There's a really cool sequence where Iron Man and the Hulk fight that's pretty neat. And nothing ever, like, I say that about the fights and that I got tired of them, but they're not fights that seem to just go on and on and on. They're not like that.
No, I never felt like it dragged. The pace was quick all throughout.
Mm-hmm.
I had a lot of fun watching this movie. The things to me that kind of took away from it a bit were that it is so packed. It's very, very plot driven. I could have done with some more character moments like the Marvel movies have kind of become known for at this point. Yeah, all the great, spectacular comic book superhero action sequences too. But I didn't feel as attached to these characters for the most part in this movie.
Yeah,
you described it as like watching an episode of Friends. It's like,
yeah,
well, you kind of you're comfortable in this. There are these people doing these things on the screen, and at the end of it, it will be the end of it.
Yeah, I didn't feel as emotionally connected this time because I'm so used to everything.
Yeah,
I didn't feel like, even though the world is still at stake, I still didn't feel like the world was at stake. If you know what I mean?
I didn't get that feeling nearly as much this time as I did in the first Avengers movie.
Yeah,
so there's that. It definitely assumes prior knowledge of the characters from previous movies, which isn't really a bad thing at this point. It makes it a little harder. I think. Yeah, it's harder for this movie to stand on its own, but there have been 10 other movies. So I feel like it's not really unreasonable at this point to assume prior knowledge. Like another big franchise, if it moved into motion pictures, I mean, Star Trek, when they started doing movies, they didn't really hash over the origins and the nature of the characters. I mean, here's Kirk and Spock and Scotty and McCoy and all that, and now they're in a movie.
Yeah.
So. And they still had their character moments, but it wasn't really about building them up from scratch. This movie was very much the same way. These characters are already established. We're just telling this story with them.
Mm. and this movie made me really. Although I didn't have the sense of, I don't know, dread is the wrong word, but I didn't have like the. I wasn't as invested in this movie. I
Yeah.
was. I still think that this movie, like the two characters that ended up standing out the most in this film, are Hawkeye and Black Widow.
That's certainly true, which is interesting, you know, even more so because they're the ones without actual powers, or you know
Well,
cybernetic suits,
yeah,
or what
they
have
are.
you.
In many ways, they're the ones we should relate to the most.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways, so I'm glad that they kind of looked into that with those characters. I wish there was more character development with Tony Stark, because I feel like Iron Man 3 had a lot of interesting ideas that don't really get used at all in this movie, and I think that kind of sucks. Like
Yeah,
when,
I felt like there were some leftover points from that I felt that had already been pretty well addressed, but they kind of lingered here a bit.
yeah, it could have been better is basically how I feel. I I don't really know where that would help. Like, I mean, I'm not saying they needed another draft of the screenplay before they did it,
No.
because chances are it probably was actually put in there, and it got cut ultimately because it would have had a 3 hour superhero movie,
Yeah, or
eh,
more.
or more, and like I said, that's stupid. Even if it is good, it's stupid. And so, I mean, I don't know. As time has gone by, this universe thing definitely has its pros, but it certainly has some pretty big cons, I've discovered. Um, it's a lot of work. That's, I guess, what it comes down to, and it doesn't mean the work is going to necessarily be good, but anyway. So I guess ultimately I feel okay. First of all, I do want to just say it is kind of funny that the guys from Less Than Zero are in this. Um, Only video store people will really think that's funny, but I just wanted to say it. The thing about the movie is that it's very good. It's a much better summer blockbuster film than we got last year. I enjoyed it a lot. I'm probably going to go see it again. So I think I'm going to give it a B plus. I wish it was better, but it still does a very good job with what it has. I'm never bored. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm the same way. Given where it sits and how much has already come before, and that they really need to do a lot of setup for what is about to come. All the stories they're getting ready to tell, and all of that had to be packed in here and still tell its own story as well. I thought they did a really good job. This
Yeah.
was a great popcorn movie. It's totally worth your time and money. So I'll say B plus as well, because I did feel it could have been better, but it was still good.
Mhm.
So, yeah, looking forward to Ant-Man in 2.5 months or so.
Yeah, I don't know if Paul Rudd wasn't in it, I don't know if I'd care, but we'll see what
I gotta
happens.
say, they haven't really misfired yet,
No.
and I laughed quite a bit at the recent trailer, which was in front of this last movie. So,
Mm.
we talked about it in the podcast. There's going to be some superhero fatigue. It's creeping up, but it hasn't really set